uh, the regional market and the international market. So we have on one side the creativity and design capacities of the Italian companies. On the other side, we have, on the side of the ASEAN countries, we have the knowledge of the area, we have the knowledge of the cultural specificities, and of course we have this rapid growth, the capacity of adapting to the rapid growth of these markets. We need to look at how to combine these two factors in order to produce innovation that could lead to a better tapping of the capacities and resources of the area and on the of the world markets in a period of changing manufacturing landscape and as well of a changing, say, general trade landscape in the world. This is a period of changing landscapes. So I will ask now our first speaker to take the floor, Mr. Vito Saracino, who is the managing director for Asia Pacific of Ariston Thermo, an Italian company that you've very well known, that has been working, one of the pioneers, Italian pioneers coming into this part of the world, who have a vast experience to address the audience. Thank you very much, Mr. Saracino.
Thank you. Good afternoon. For those who remained until the end almost, I'll try to be fast and hopefully concrete. Let me start first of all with sharing a few numbers on Ariston Thermo, as we are a private company, and so maybe some numbers are not clear enough. I'm trying to make this sentence long enough to switch the chart, but does not work. Okay, it's coming. So Ariston Thermo globally is a 1.6 billion euro company operating 66 companies in 40 different countries, 27 plants and 23 R&D centers in 15 different countries, and 7,000 employees. I shall say 8,000, as last month we acquired a company in Mexico. We exist since 1930. Ariston Thermo is the most international company in its sector. In ASEAN, we operate with 450 fully dedicated people. We estimate that more than 30 ASEAN people use our products every single day. We have one dedicated plant in Vietnam, not too far from here. We are market leader. Ariston is the #1 brand in the region, both in terms of market share and price premium. And we are in this part of the world since 40 years. ASEAN is the fastest growing region within Ariston Group. What we do? We produce and sell products that basically serve two needs. One is space heating, which is not needed here. But in countries like Europe, North America, Russia, or China, the winter is cold enough to require homes to be heated for a comfortable living. And we do also water heating, because enjoying a warm shower is a healthy habit almost everywhere in the world. Ariston focus in ASEAN is water heating. Meaning that apparently we are so crazy to sell hot water in one of the hottest regions in the world. Let me share now with you 3 messages. I'm bringing here the point of view of an Italian brand manufacturer. Okay, so I'm talking as the company is talking. First of all, I will share some reflections on why and how to succeed in ASEAN. Second, reasons to be excited about this region. And finally, also what we expect from ASEAN countries in the future. How to succeed? First of all, corporations must be local. Allow me to say, pushing a little bit the concept that for a brand manufacturer, ASEAN is statistics. What matters are single countries, someone said before. Understanding local people, local habits, local needs is fundamental for the success of any economic initiatives in this region. And this is why Ariston follows a natural, let's say, trajectory where the experience in the market or the market size or the market development drives our decisions on when and how to enter or develop further a country. The red countries in this chart are where we are market leader, and so this chart shows clearly that the more we are local, the more we are successful. Let me clarify one thing. Being local doesn't mean setting an entity, so calling lawyers and setting an entity or maybe starting a plant, etc. Being local for Ariston means that, for example, 85% of the products that leave our plant in Vietnam stay in ASEAN. 85% are sold here. 80% of the products that we sell in ASEAN are specifically designed for ASEAN people. 99% of our people are local. So that means that basically we have to eat the local food every single day. When we have a local presence, we are also in the condition to develop cooperations with notable local authorities for the improvement of the safety and the energy efficiency of our products, like what we are doing right now with the Ministry of Industry and Trade of Vietnam or the National Environmental Agency in Singapore. That's the first important ingredient. The second one is, of course, design. I was asked to talk about design in this session, so I had to put this slide in the flow. But we really mean it because, of course, Italian companies are known for nice design, especially when it comes to cars or fashion or any products that have a kind of emotional engagement with people. Ariston tries to apply design best practices in one of the most functional, probably boring products that people have in their homes. It's a water heater. Here you can see 3 examples of, I would say, nice product. I'm proud to say that. That, by the way, can be found only in this part of the world. These are ASEAN products. They don't go anywhere else. Finally, innovation and creativity. Our products can be connected, meaning that people can set the temperature, set the shower profile, control the energy consumption of the product, or when electronics get into the product can learn from the shower habits of people and prepare the hot water exactly when it's needed. So the product does not waste energy in boiling water when it's not needed. This provides substantial benefits for consumers in terms of energy saving up to 20%. Creativity, last point, this is a product called Lido's Hybrid. This is a combination of a standard electric water heater with an heat pump. And this brings the benefits of both and breaks the trade-off between the cost of the product and the energy efficiency that the product can bring. This creativity effort has created probably the most efficient electric water heater in the world. So this is about the first point. The second point is reasons to be excited about ASEAN. There are many. I just want to mention a couple very briefly. The first one is demand. Of course, the more affordability of our product increases, we can, for example, calculate affordability as in this chart as the ratio between the water heater price and the nominal family income, the more the usage rate of our products increases, meaning that basically more and more people will use our products in the region. Well, thinking at where countries like Philippines, Indonesia, or Myanmar are in this curve, it's just great because we can expect a growing demand in our industry. Second point that I want to touch is a little bit softer. It's about learning. ASEAN is an area with one of the youngest population in the world, one of the most dynamic, one of the most connected populations in the world. It's an area where, and only here, Ariston can, for example, read exactly in every store, for every product, which was the sellout of the day before. Or is an area where we can launch digital marketing campaign touching millions of people in just a few days and measuring in a pretty accurate way what the buying redemption of the product is also offline, so meaning in the physical stores. There are a lot of things we can do here, and ASEAN for Ariston is also a learning lab where we can learn a lot in terms of digital, in terms of consumers, in terms of retail. Last point is about expectations from ASEAN. Of course, growth and stability, we discussed all morning about these two topics, are very important. But in addition to that, for a brand manufacturer like us that invest in products, invest in manufacturing, and want to grow into the area, there are other 5 important topics that I want to share, which are okay, well, 2. The first one is protection of intellectual property and consumer rights. I'm sorry, I don't agree with someone before that said IP is fine. It's not fine. In many countries, IP is not there yet. So we expect countries to enforce IP protection and to enforce consumer right protections, meaning very basic things. If a water heater is sold with the promise of being a 20-liter capacity, it has to be 20 liters, not 18 or 17, right? Very basic things. This is fundamental, okay, to compete in a right way. Second is uniformity of rules. If today we develop a product and we want to launch a product in the 10 ASEAN markets, we have to go through 7 or 8 different certification processes, requiring different interfaces, different processes, different times, and additional costs. So we hope in the future that ASEAN countries will converge toward more uniform rules. The third one is increasing attention to environment. We hope this will become an increasing priority in the government's agenda. 4, okay, is investment support. Of course, we invest a lot on innovation, on product development, on manufacturing, and we expect and we hope governments to be open to support the initial phase of the investment to soften the break-even. And finally, as I said, we want to be local and we want our companies to be led by local people, so the human capital, okay, trust me, human capital is very important for us to develop. I'm done. I just want to dedicate my last consideration to our honorary chairman, Mr. Francesco Merloni, here with us in the room. He's the man that 40 years ago came in this part of the world and was so crazy, or I shall say so creative, talking about creativity, to believe that he could sell water heaters to one of the hottest areas in the world. And he has created a new industry that before was not existing. And he's the man that after 40 years has still the enthusiasm, the energy, and the curiosity to travel all the way from Italy to understand how these markets are doing, talk to his people, and share his priceless advices. Grazie, Presidente. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saracino. First of all, let me join you in congratulating President Merloni for the job he has done in pioneering Italian presence in this part of the world. It's been extremely successful, and certainly it will work, and it has already worked, as a light to show the path to the rest of our entrepreneurial community. We very much appreciated, Mr. Saracino, your illustration on how to be successful in this part of the world, on how you can put together Italian creativity, design within some of your products, how you can learn. You need to study about the local conditions. Now you can learn, and then how you can adapt your product. And this is certainly the road that needs to be pursued in order to have success. Thank you very much again. I will ask now Mr. Douglas Foos, the president of the Singapore Manufacturing Federation, to take the floor. I think that we have a speaker that represents a country that has been able to go up the ladder or the various phases of production from Industry 1.0 up to Industry 4.0. Certainly a country that, again, is in a condition to show the way. So we are very eager to listen to what you have to say to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Please give me a moment to indulge, because I just wanted to follow up with what Mr. Saracino mentioned earlier on about the journey of whole ASEAN and how some of the IPs are not really in place yet. I think I serve as a Singapore representative on the ASEAN Business Advisory Council. So there are 3 private members on that council nominated by the government of each country. So in 2003, there was a lot of meetings by the economic ministers, the ASEAN economic ministers, for many years, and nothing really moves. Because the whole narrative of ASEAN in 1967 was not to build a common economic community. It was for peace and stability. It was a lot of respect for each other's rights and culture and beliefs. So we don't comment on any of that, but we respect each other. And over the many years, every year we have the ASEAN Leaders Summit, we have the ASEAN Economic Ministers meeting, ASEAN Finance Ministers. And 2003, they decided that maybe the private sector should come and do something. And so that's where we started to move. I incidentally also serve on the Intellectual Property Office Singapore. Recently in Singapore, we have actually narrowed the protection rights of artificial intelligence from 24 months to 6 months now. And we're sharing this with our ASEAN brothers and sisters to move together in tandem. And the ASEAN Economic Community was only formed in 2015. It was launched, and with a 2025 blueprint. We are now working on the next one. So essentially what I'm trying to say is Mr. Saracino has got these experiences, and I think I have full respect that. Thank you very much. 40 years ago, you started this journey. And likewise, Singapore Manufacturing Federation, we are founded in 1932, way before Singapore was independent. And it was actually the Europeans who came into this part of the world and decided that on this small little island called Singapore, there's a chance to do manufacturing. And at that time, it was just a small fishing village. So it was very impressive on how the Singapore Manufacturer Association at that time has evolved from building cars in Singapore to basic appliances, refrigerators, air conditions, to today the high-value biotech, oil and gas, and moving into the Industrial 4.0. So earlier on, Jin Ho from the Singapore EDB has mentioned that manufacturing still accounts for about 22% of Singapore's GDP, and it will continue to be so. In fact, there was a conversation on whether the manufacturing is still essential for the Singapore economy, and there was even discussion on moving towards service economy at various stages of our time. But in the recent Committee for Future Economy report that was chaired by our current Deputy Prime Minister, Heng Swee Keat, it reiterated the importance of manufacturing as a multiplier. But manufacturing evolving into how using the whole ASEAN hub as a manufacturing hub. The 10 different countries in ASEAN are in different stages of development. And actually, it acts as a challenge, but it's actually a beauty. Because the various components of any products and services has got competitive edge in producing in various parts. And if you are able to today be innovative, and that's one of the topics inside here about being innovative in your product, services, your design, and your business model, you're able to harness the current production circuit in ASEAN and bring the product and service as fast as possible to the marketplace, you're going to be the winner. Because today it's about speed to market. And right now, the way that we are working on, we see a huge potential. In earlier, my good friend Tin has mentioned about the creativity and the quality that the Italian manufacturers have done. In fact, one of the things that it's not a often hype out information that the quality of the tools, the tooling, there's a question on the tooling and machinery that used to produce the other goods and services are actually very critical and much sought after, like what Tin has mentioned earlier on, other than Japan in Asia. We look at the Italians and the Europe side for some benchmark, and that actually helps to bring collaboration opportunities for Italian companies with our local companies. So of course, like what Tin has mentioned earlier in the previous panel, you could actually appoint a distributor, but you could actually collaborate in terms of forming a collective or cooperative into building a new product and services, not just for the ASEAN growing market, but for the Asia Pac and beyond. And ASEAN, as many have mentioned in the whole day conference, is going to be the 4th largest economy by 2030. And I'm extremely excited because not many times in the history of a economy has a chance of moving to the 4th. Because after moving to the 4th, we'll probably be staying there for a long, long time. But the movement to the 4th actually creates that room for opportunity. And especially against the backdrop of what's happening in the global marketplace today, therein lies a lot more opportunities for enterprises both in ASEAN to work closely with the Italian manufacturers or small medium enterprises. So at last year's conference, we were very happy that Singapore Manufacturing Federation actually have a MOU signed with our counterpart, and we want to do more because it's through the trade association chambers that we could reach out and help the SMEs from both countries connect. Because SMEs are the one really that needs a lot of guidance and a lot more broad help from the various agencies. And the Singapore Manufacturing Federation in the last 10 years have started on this journey of leading a whole conversation on the future of manufacturing. Because what's the future of manufacturing if we're not getting young people into this industry? I'm sure earlier on you mentioned, Mr. Saracino, on the human talent component, but there are many other sectors that are trying to take the young talents away or the attention away. And how do you get the youth excited? So when we did a bit of a conversation on the future of manufacturing, one of the professors actually threw on the table that if you create a game on the digital space, is that manufacturing? So you think about it. Last time before you can play a game or a digital game, you need to buy a box. It could be an Xbox, a PSP box, which is manufactured somewhere. And you need to buy the software to be loaded. And you need to connect all this to get the outcome. So today you can get the same outcome, but through the digital part, actually reaching out to millions of users within a very short time. So the whole digital and digitization has actually changed a lot of the shift in the whole paradigm. And Singapore Manufacturing Federation has actually started to work on a manufacturing as a service platform where your facilities, both in Italy or ASEAN, may not be at 100% capacity, but they could be utilized by startups or others that require that component to be built, and actually you utilize the excess resources, which is actually good as a revenue stream for the facility owners, but actually very good for people who are trying to go into the manufacturing space without having going to set up entire facility. So these are some of the initiatives that we are pushing in this whole future of manufacturing journey, and having a discussion with actually the young, especially to excite them to move into this space. Because we believe that the future is to be a co-creation by all and not by certain factions of the community. And so in terms of business model that we have evolved for Singapore Manufacturing Federation since the last 10 years is very different from what started 87 years ago. We are a Singapore chapter for the Enterprise Europe Network, connecting to about 600 million enterprises yearly over the European region. And we are continuing to do that to bring ASEAN closer to the others, the rest of the world. And we are very appreciative of a platform like this because it actually brings Italian companies closer to ASEAN. And hopefully from this, we could excite more ASEAN companies to actually take a trip, go over to Italy, and continue to connect further. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fu. To listen to the story of Singapore is certainly something that is creating a lot of envy and appreciation for your history, and certainly making you considering you a very desirable partner to enter into this part of the world. And I'm sure that the presence of Italian companies in Singapore is a testament to that. I will ask now Mr. Ambassador Massolo, who's the chairman of Fincantieri, as the word says, as a ship maker, the largest ship maker company in Italy, to take the floor. Thank you very much, Piero.
Thank you very much. It's always difficult to speak after all the others, actually, so I have little to say, but I will try to say it slowly in order to gain some time. Well, three items on my agenda. The first item is a quick word about Fincantieri. A second one is Fincantieri and innovation. What's the relationship, how we behave relating to this issue. And the third thing is what and how we can do together with ASEAN countries. By the way, I would like to say from the outset that our ambition here is to enlarge our footprint in ASEAN region. We work in Vietnam. We have a shipyard in the south, and our aim is to transform it into a manufacturing hub. Actually, Fincantieri designs and manufactures all kinds of ships. Cruise ships, we are world leaders in cruise ships. We are fairly well placed in military vessels, in offshore, in the service sector, maintenance. We are now developing and enlarging, think about creativity. We are enlarging our core business since we roughly work 200,000 tons of iron each year. So we decided that maybe it's a good idea to work iron, to treat iron also for third parties. So in a way, we are also entering the infrastructure business. We have shipyards in 20 countries in the world, including Italy, with a revenue of roughly $6 billion and a workload for the next 10 years, which means roughly 20,000 people all around, But interestingly enough, to this 20,000 people, you have to add 60,000 people roughly worldwide in terms of people that work for us in the framework of our supply chains. This is Fincantieri, and this is what we are sitting on. And the field in which he operates, which is shipbuilding, and in general, the maritime sector is a highly competitive sector. And you compete on cost, of course, but you also quite relevantly compete on innovation. That is, you continuously try to create value on innovation, through innovation. And actually, if I may say, cruise ship building, more than other sectors, is a growing added value market really thrived by innovation. You know, ship owners are very demanding people usually, and you develop skills you would never ever imagine you possess in order to accommodate, and innovation is really key from this point of view. So what is our relation with innovation? Well, when I'm saying that we have to produce value and to create value through innovation, I chiefly think about four things. Ship. Increasingly, ships need to be clean, propelled in a with clean fuel, and this creates a whole array of a whole field, huge field of cooperation in this particular endeavor. The same ship, second thing, needs to be smart. That is less populated in terms of crew, and smarter driven. And of course, it has to be a secure ship that is protected against all sorts of invasions. First and foremost, nowadays, also cyber invasion, and this is really a very huge challenge to undertake. And if you have a smart ship, you need to have a smart yard. And so, once again, this is another field of cooperation: how to build, how to realize a smart yard, how to enhance, for instance, the Vung Tau yard, which is live and kicking here in Vietnam. And there is also another way of saying it that is key for innovation is sustainability. And Fincantieri has a strong focus traditionally on sustainability, and we evolve, as I was trying to say, getting cleaner and more digital from this point of view. And of course, each and every input that can come to us from those viewpoints is highly welcome. And what is our model actually in innovation? I will say it from the outset: it's open innovation. Fincantieri is first and foremost a system integrator. That is, we rely deeply on our supply chains in two ways. On one side, we offer to our supply chain a platform, a leadership, a coordination activity. On the other side, we blend our in-house skills with the skills that come to us from our supply chain: human, technological, know-how, and so on and so far. So actually, open innovations really means innovating through partnering, through partnership. And what we can achieve in this region and with ASEAN countries, I would tell it in three words. One word is complementarity, the second one is openness, and the third one is blend. Complementarity. As I was saying, we are job providers and system integrators. You are ideal manufacturing hubs. And this is a fantastic blend. This is exactly as Mr. Fu was saying, this is exactly the way to proceed, to enhance and to leverage this complementarity. And then openness. If your device here in your company is to to innovate through partnership, well, open innovation, openness, sharing with what you do with your supply chain is key from this point of view, because we are deeply convinced that it's mutually enriching for the companies involved, but if I may, also for the governments and for the states involved, because it creates stability, social, economic, in the regions in which shipyards are implanted and in which this whole value creation chain takes place and develops. And then blends. You know, in Italy, a firm like Fincantieri heavily relies on two kinds of other firms, small and medium enterprises. You won't be surprised, Italy is pretty famous for those. But besides this, also on bigger, medium and big enterprises that are edge quality in their respective fields. And we create this kind of blend in Italy. There's absolutely no doubt that this is exactly the same way in which we want to develop our business abroad, and in which we already develop our business abroad. We have a couple of installations in countries like Brazil or the United States or Romania, in which we do exactly this. And I wanted to focus on one miracle of globalization. You know, we have a couple of shipyards in Romania, and Romanian specialized workforce migrates to other European countries. So now we hire 500 Vietnamese technicians, specialized people in our Romanian shipyards. Those are the wonders of globalization. And we want to continue exactly this. So this is how we want to behave, to export this kind of model. And I really do hope to find the same enthusiasm and the same interest that we are driven by here. And judging from the fact that at this late hour and with a sleepy day, the quantity of people I have in front of me make me think that we're right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jean-Pierre. That was most interesting. And I think one particular thing that I noted was how Fincantieri values the supply chain and what you can get from your supply chain, the interaction you can have with them, which is certainly something that shows how you can blend our own creativity and experience with that comes from those other actors and players, companies in Italy, when they establish themselves abroad, can profit from. So that is a very important element of what we are trying to talk about today. I think we have some time, so if you gentlemen agree, we'll take some questions from the floor, and I see already a couple of hands that have been raised. There will be one in the back, and then Mr. Enrico Letta. But please, Enrico, you have the microphone.
Just a very short question to Douglas Fu. Your presence here for us is very, very interesting, because also it's a continuity with our past cooperation. You come from Singapore, and Singapore is, of course, by far the richest part of ASEAN. And we in Europe, we had for many years, and it will be the main problem also for the next future, the problem of inequalities, a problem of gaps between richest part of the European Union and regions, some poorest regions. And we know very well that it's very complicated to have an internal market, even a single currency with such a divide. So we think that, of course, for ASEAN is maybe the other great cleavage problem, so how to keep together and how to create options and possibilities for the poorest part of the entire region to take advantage of good experiences, best practices. So my point is, how do you think that innovation can be this tool? How can ASEAN share the best practices that we see, of course, in Singapore, but also in Vietnam too, and how the rest of the region can share these practices. What is your thought? What is your take about this point? Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency, for the question. Actually, the ASEAN working together has been a 52-year journey. So the whole ASEAN unity, the ASEAN centrality is important for all 10 countries. And Singapore, having the blessings that we are a bit faster ahead, is very open and willing to share and work together with the rest of our neighbors. In fact, some of our neighbors, the way that they will leapfrog because of the whole disruption in technology, could sometimes be even faster in terms of the adoption of some of these new technologies. So for example, in Vietnam, we are having a conversation to do a Vietnam-Singapore Innovation Center, where we work closely bilaterally, hoping that moving forward in the future, we could bring the rest of ASEAN together. Because having all 10 countries to all agree at one go sometimes is a challenge. So one of the ways that we actually try and pilot are having bilateral trials and pilots. The other one that we actually are happy with last year, there's the EU-Singapore FTA sign, and that actually acts as like a pathfinder, because the starting point was a EU-ASEAN FTA, but that became a bit more complex. So Singapore is happy to take the lead to stand forward and kick the ball going, and hopefully in time to come we'll be able to see a EU-ASEAN FTA finally. So in that sense, I think there's a lot of collaboration effort, both people to people, at the government agencies. The whole ASEAN meeting that comes every year collates all the various agencies from the 10 countries to come together, and that actually is an opportunity to co-create and learning from each other about some of the policies that we want to make. And that's why in the part of the intellectual property, we see a potential and a bright spark that we could actually be ahead of many places to come with a common region for intellectual property protection going forward as part of a whole business modeling. Yeah, so I hope I answered your question on that, Excellency. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. There is a question.
Hello everyone, my name is Alberto Martinelli. I'm the president of the Italian Chamber of Commerce in Singapore. By the way, I'm very proud and happy to see so many Singapore representatives today. I guess that my question is again for you, Douglas, long-standing friend of the Italian Chamber of Commerce Singapore. In your capacity of President of Singapore Manufacturing Federation, would you mind to share with us your thought about the recent announcement decision of Dyson to invest in Singapore in a multi-billion dollar investments manufacturing the electric car? I think this would be an interesting example given how centric and pivotal is Singapore for the entire ASEAN business. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. The Dyson investment has got many thought process behind it. I think Singapore started many years early on. I mentioned that we had Ford Motors who used to have their car manufacturing plant in Singapore. So while we go through the whole 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, we have never in our wildest dream imagined that one day we will go back to car production, because it's almost impossible, because such production, or manufacturing for that matter, requires three factors of production: land, labor, and capital, which we are slightly blessed with a bit more capital that is placed in our markets. But the land, there's only that much we have. In fact, the recent studies that while we do urbanization and our population have grown 2-3 times, our green lungs have actually increased by 11%. So we are not really ready to sacrifice those part of the sustainable development to go into car production. So the Dyson story actually narrates that you can really never know what goes around will come around. The car now has gone back there. And it actually has to do a lot with the electric vehicle. It has got to do a lot with the battery, which our university, our Institute of Higher Learning, has spent many years on that. In Singapore, we have got a research innovation enterprise, which is chaired by our Prime Minister, that put in billions of dollars into the research and development. And we are ready to share that in terms of what one of our panelists have mentioned about open innovation, to work and collaborate so that we could put things onto the market that is able to make the world a better place. And Singapore is always ready to play that small part in how we co-create the future. And indeed, we are very happy with a decision by Dyson. I think there are some things that they are looking at, not just because of Singapore, but because of the ASEAN region as a whole, which will become the 4th largest economy with 600 over million people that possibly will be their consumption base. And in terms of the land that has actually constrained us, which gave us a challenge, there's always two sides to a coin. It acts as a good platform for test bedding electric vehicle, because there are many pilots that are being done right now, not just electric vehicle, but autonomous vehicle. In fact, Singapore Manufacturing Federation, we have got a standard development organization business unit that has just curated our standards for autonomous vehicle going forward. And we will look forward to working with our Italian counterparts and any of our ASEAN neighbors to move towards this journey, because it's evolving and it's evolving rapidly. Thank you.
Any other questions from the floor? Oh, please, Valeria.
Thank you. To Vito Saracino, first of all, thanks for being partners of the High-Level Dialogue Initiative, and thanks to Francesco Merloni, your chairman, for the big vision he had many years ago to start a manufacturing hub in the area. What lessons have been learned by your company in this process, and what would you strongly recommend not to do or to do it better to other entrepreneurs here that want to know better how to proceed and what to do?
That's a very tough one. I just want to take back one of the points that I made. I would recommend definitely to be picky on where to start. Because ASEAN is a vast group of countries, many different people, different culture, different religions, different governments. Everything is different. There are islands, and so I would recommend to select 1 or 2 countries to start with, to start the business, instead, as opposed to be broad and try to sell something around the region. The second thing is, I would recommend to, assuming I'm talking to a manufacturer of a product, that is what my company does, not to think or to be arrogant, to think that you just take your Italian products and you bring them here and it will work. There is a long, continuous work of adaptation. We have tried in the past to sell products from Italy, doesn't work. because to be concrete, the capacities, the shape, tank as opposed tankless, is different. So you need to understand what is the local need and adapt, leveraging on what we are strong at. We are strong in manufacturing capabilities, we are strong in product design, we are technically and under an engineering point of view very capable people. So we should bring here the skills, not the products. The products have to be created, shaped on the people. On the other side, what I would not recommend to do, I don't know, that's a different thing. Probably the negatives of what I've just said. Allow me to answer that way.
There was a hand raised in the middle of the hall. If you can give them the microphone. Right there. By the TV camera.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I think I just want to help people to get away from falling asleep. I just want to raise an idea to all the Italian companies here. I think you just look out at the street of Vietnam, you see that the Vietnamese people love moving and love eating. You know, we have 97 million people, but we have 43 million bikes and 2.2 million cars. I believe that this can prove that Vietnamese people love moving. And Piaggio, I think Piaggio do a good job in Vietnam, right? And you go down to the street, you see that less than 100 meters, you will find a restaurant. It proved that Vietnamese people love eating. And I do think that Italian company can do a lot for eating industry, right? So come back with the design story. Actually, I come from technology industry. So I just want to share with all of you here, the problem in Vietnam is that many e-commerce in Vietnam, many e-commerce companies in Vietnam now are working in the loss operation. The question is why? Why they have to spend a lot of money into a very, very fashionable industry with loss? And this is the question for design. I don't think it's design just for the smartphone or design for clothes. I mean the design for the e-commerce purchaser, design for legal policy that can help the market up. So I hope that all the Italian companies and representatives here can go out to the market and find the chance here. I mean, that's what I just want to open the issue that Vietnamese market and Vietnamese company